You know that voice, the one that tells you you are not good enough. The one that shows up right when you are about to try something new, right when you are about to speak up, right when you are about to be seen. It sounds like you, it feels like you, but here is the truth you have been avoiding. That voice is not yours. It never was. It belongs to your father. And before you close this video, before you tell yourself this does not apply to you, I need you to sit with something uncomfortable. Every time you criticize yourself, every time you second guess your worth, every time you shrink before you even try, you are not being rational. You are not being honest. You are repeating a script that was written for you before you even knew what words meant. This is not about blame. This is about recognition. Because once you see where that voice came from, you can finally choose whether to keep listening to it. Let me paint you a picture. You are 7 years old. You bring home a drawing from school. You are proud. You worked hard on it. You hand it to your father, waiting for that look, that nod, that small sign that says you did well. But instead, he glances at it. Maybe he says nothing. Maybe he points out what is wrong with it. Maybe he says it is fine, but his tone says it is not. And in that moment, something breaks. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet crack in the foundation of how you see yourself. You learned something that day. You learned that your effort is not enough, that your excitement is not warranted, that pride is dangerous, and you never forget it. Fast forward 20 years. You are an adult now. You have a career, relationships, responsibilities. But that voice is still there. Every time you finish a project, it tells you it could have been better. Every time someone compliments you, it tells you they are just being nice. Every time you feel proud, it reminds you that you are probably missing something. You think this is self-awareness. You think this is humility. You think this is what keeps you sharp. But it is not. It is your father, still standing over your shoulder, still waiting for you to prove something you were never supposed to have to prove. Here is what psychology tells us. There is a concept called the internal parent. It is the internalized version of your primary caregivers, stored deep in your psyche, running quietly in the background of every decision you make. This is not metaphorical. This is neurological. When you are young, your brain is a sponge. It absorbs everything: tone, facial expressions, silence, disappointment, and it files all of that away as truth, as reality, as the way the world works. Your father did not need to yell. He did not need to be cruel. All he needed to do was withhold approval. All he needed to do was show you, again and again, that love was conditional, that acceptance was earned, that you were always one mistake away from being too much or not enough. And your brain took that data and built a system around it, a system designed to protect you, a system that says, if I criticize myself first, if I catch my own flaws, if I never get too proud, then I will never be blindsided by rejection again. This is emotional armor. You built it to survive, and it worked. It kept you safe. It kept you small enough to avoid his disappointment, quiet enough to avoid his anger, controlled enough to avoid his indifference. But here is the cost. You never learned to hear your own voice. You never learned to trust your own approval. You never learned that you were allowed to be proud without punishment. And now, decades later, you are still playing by his rules. Every goal you set comes with an asterisk. Every achievement comes with a qualifier. Every moment of joy comes with a warning that it will not last, that you will mess it up, that you should not get too comfortable. You think you are being realistic. You think you are managing expectations. But what you are really doing is preemptively abandoning yourself so that no one else has to. Let me show you how deep this goes. Think about the last time you made a mistake. A real one. Something that mattered. What was the first thing you said to yourself? I bet it was harsh. I bet it was cutting. I bet it was the kind of thing you would never say to a friend, to a partner, to a stranger. Now ask yourself, whose voice was that? Was it yours? Or was it the echo of every time your father made you feel like your worth was negotiable? Like your value had to be earned? Like love was something you had to deserve? This is the trap. You think the inner critic is keeping you accountable. You think it is keeping you humble. You think it is preventing you from becoming arrogant, lazy, or complacent. But what it is actually doing is keeping you in a cage. A cage built from the emotional remnants of a relationship you had no control over. A cage where you are both the prisoner and the guard. And the worst part, you do not even realize you are in it. Because it feels normal. It feels like you. It feels like the only way to be. But it is not. Let me tell you what happens when a child grows up with a father who is emotionally unavailable, critical, or withholding. The child does not rebel. The child does not reject the father. The child internalizes the father. The child becomes the father. This is called introjection. You take the external critic and you swallow it whole. You make it part of your identity. You make it the voice of reason. You make it the thing that keeps you grounded. But here is what you do not realize. That voice was never reasonable. It was never fair. It was never about you. It was about him. Your father criticized you because he was criticized. He withheld approval because approval was withheld from him. He made love conditional because that is the only kind of love he knew. And you were just the nearest target, the safest place to unload the weight he could not carry. This is not an excuse. This is an explanation. Because once you understand the origin, you can stop taking it personally. You can stop believing that the harshness was earned. You can stop trying to fix something that was never broken in the first place. Here is the shift. When you hear that voice, that cut, relentless, never satisfied voice, I want you to pause. I want you to ask, is this mine or is this his? Because most of the time it is his. Most of the time, it is the ghost of a man who could not give you what you needed. Now, living rent-free in your head, demanding that you meet standards he could not even meet himself. And once you see that, once you really see it, you can start to separate. You can start to build your own voice. A voice that is kind. A voice that is fair. A voice that sees your effort, your growth, your humanity. But this takes time. Because for years, you have been loyal to that voice. You have defended it. You have believed it was protecting you. You have made it the gatekeeper of your worth. And now I'm asking you to fire it. Not because your father was a villain. Not because he did not love you. But because his version of love was incomplete. His version of approval was conditional. His version of validation was earned. And you deserve better. You deserve to wake up and feel proud of who you are without immediately searching for evidence that you should not be. You deserve to achieve something and let yourself celebrate without the nagging feeling that you are missing something. You deserve to exist without constantly auditing your own value. This is not arrogance. This is freedom. Let me tell you what happens when you start to quiet that voice. When you start to question it. When you start to replace it with something softer, something truer. At first, it feels wrong. It feels dangerous. It feels like you are letting yourself off the hook. Like you are becoming lazy. Like you are losing your edge. But that is just the old system trying to pull you back. That is the armor trying to convince you that you still need it. You do not. What you need is the courage to be kind to yourself. The courage to say, I did my best, and that is enough. The courage to accept that you are allowed to be imperfect, allowed to be learning, allowed to be human. And here is what happens when you do that. Here is what happens when you stop treating yourself like a problem to be solved and start treating yourself like a person to be loved. You start to breathe easier. You start to take risks. You start to trust yourself. You start to show up as who you actually are, not who you think you need to be to avoid criticism. This is the gift. Because when you are no longer running from your father voice, you are free to run towards your own, free to discover what you actually value, what you actually want, what you actually believe. And that is terrifying. Because for so long, his voice has been the compass. His approval has been the goal. His standards have been the measure. But now, you get to choose. You get to decide what success means. You get to decide what effort looks like. You get to decide when you are proud, when you are enough, when you are worthy. And no one, not even the ghost of your father, gets to take that from you. Here is the paradox. The more you silence the inner critic, the better you become. The kinder you are to yourself, the more you grow. The less you punish yourself, the more you achieve. Because when you are not constantly defending against your own attacks, you have energy for everything else. For creativity, for connection, for risk, for life. This is what they do not tell you about self-compassion. It is not soft. It is not weak. It is not letting yourself off the hook. It is the hardest thing you will ever do, because it requires you to break a contract you did not even know you signed. A contract that says, I will never be good enough, and I will spend my entire life trying to prove otherwise. And you have been trying. You have been working harder, achieving more, doing everything right, and still, the voice remains. Still, the dissatisfaction lingers. Still, the feeling that you are one step away from being exposed as a fraud. Because the problem was never your effort. The problem was never your worth. The problem was the measuring stick. You have been using his ruler to measure your life. And no matter how far you go, no matter how much you accomplish, it will never be enough. Because the ruler is broken. Because the standards are impossible. Because the game was rigged from the start. So what do? You stop playing. You put down the ruler. You step away from the game. You say, I am done trying to earn something I already have. And then you build something new. A new voice. A new standard. A new way of seeing yourself. This is the work. Not fixing yourself. Not improving yourself. Not becoming someone your father would finally approve of. But reclaiming yourself. Reclaiming the version of you that existed before you learned to be ashamed. Before you learned to shrink. Before you learned that love was something you had to earn. That version still exists. Buried under years of criticism. Buried under layers of armor. Buried under the weight of trying to be enough for someone who could not see you. But it is still there. Waiting. Hoping. Ready to be heard. And the moment you start listening, the moment you start choosing your own voice over his, everything changes. Not all at once. Not dramatically, but slowly, quietly, deeply. You start to notice the moments when you are kind to yourself. The moments when you let yourself rest. The moments when you feel proud and do not immediately crush it. And those moments grow. They become habits. They become a new way of being. This is the transformation. From self-criticism to self-trust. From conditional worth to inherent value. From his voice to yours. And here is what you will discover on the other side. You are always enough. You were always worthy. You were always deserving of the kindness you have been withholding from yourself. Not because you achieved something. Not because you fixed yourself. But because you exist. And that is the truth your father could not give you. The truth you have been searching for in every accomplishment, every relationship, every external validation. The truth that you are not a project. You are not a problem. You are not a work in progress. You are a person who deserves to be met with compassion, a person who deserves to be seen, a person who deserves to take up space without apology. And the moment you start treating yourself that way, the moment you start speaking to yourself the way you wish he had spoken to you, you will realize something profound. You do not need his approval anymore. You never did. What you needed was your own. And now, finally, you can give it to yourself. So I will leave you with this question, the question that will determine everything that comes next. Which voice will you choose? The one that has kept you small, kept you striving, kept you searching for something outside yourself? Or the one that has been waiting, quietly, patiently, to tell you the truth you have always needed to hear? You are enough. You have always been enough. And no voice, no matter how familiar, gets to convince you otherwise. The choice is yours.